Hi, Rich Hoffman here. Let's talk about Jesus. Jesus and healthcare. So I was another one of those very interesting meetings with a lot of very smart people, and the contents of it were worth sharing, I think. It was healthcare professionals, and we were talking about policy for Ohio and federal policy, and what should a good healthcare policy be? What kind of policy should we make to as far as healthcare goes? Because of course, the discussion was, well, Obamacare was a disaster. You can't have socialized medicine. You need competitive models, to drive costs down, drive innovation up. What's that look like? And I said, well, probably one of the greatest healers we've had in the history of mankind that we know of, has been chronicled, was Jesus Christ. He was healing all kinds of people in the New Testament, and people just rub up against him, and all of a sudden they're healed of all kinds of ailments. And the conversation, went from there to, well, do you really believe that's true? And I had to give them a couple instances of assumptions that everybody thinks is a fact, when in fact they have the wrong ideas about things. And I asked all of them, do you know that type 2 diabetes, which is a huge burden on healthcare systems, so if you're a healthcare provider or you're an employer and you have a bunch of people, which a lot of people these days, especially if you have a lot of employees that have high body mass indexes, diabetes is a problem. And so it drags down your healthcare costs. So I said to him, did you know that type 2 diabetes is reversible? And not a single one of them knew that it was reversible. And this is a trend over the last couple of years. It's not been well known over a period of time. It used to be believed that type 2 diabetes was a death sentence, that there was nothing you could do about it. Once you had it, you're done. And you had to be on some sort of insulin stimulant for the rest of your life. Once the pancreas goes dead, it's over. So you have to be on medication. So we're all sitting around talking and being very smart about things. And they're like, well, why would we? I don't believe you. I don't, I've read all these things. I said, where'd you read them from? Well, this journal, this website about medicine, whatever trades that they're using to drive their industry. And I said, what? That magazine is sponsored by Big Pharma, brought to you by Pfizer and Moderna. Of course, they're not going to tell you that type 2 diabetes is reversible. But the truth is, and we know now, post 2020s, going into the next decade, that the beta cells in your pancreas are going up when they're under stress. If you have a very high sugar diet or just bad food intake, period, if you're overweight and the stress on your body is exorbitant, your beta cells tend to go into hibernation because they go into fight mode. It's kind of like having your village attacked. People don't play out in their yards and do lawn work. They lock their doors and stay in the house. So the beta cells go into hibernation inside the pancreas, and then it loses its function. If you reverse that, you change your diet, improve dramatically the kind of food you eat, that your body likes, take the stresses off, lose a lot of weight, then the beta cells can come back out of the house and go back to work, and then they'll restore normal function. And quite a few people who have changed their lifestyle habits that drove them to type 2 diabetes found that it was completely reversible without medication. Beta cells come back and restore function to the pancreas. So that was new news to these guys. And then I went on to continue to give them examples of, you mentioned Jesus Christ, did all these great things. He was a great healer, but isn't that fictional fairy tale kind of kid stuff? And I said, I don't think so. I think you could look at incidences. I brought up the Karate Kid. Said, what about Mr. Miyagi? And he helped, and even that's a fictional story, and the Japanese medicine idea of rubbing your hands together and healing somebody with your hands. just touching them. The idea that massages can heal people. I can tell you there's lots of people believe that they can go to ayahuasca shaman in South America or any shaman for that matter, in any culture, Indian culture, Eskimos, wherever they have a village shaman thinks they can go into the spirit world and heal you. What are we talking about here? And of course, people could be healed by Jesus just by touching his cloak. What's happening? I said, I think you have instances of people that are very high in energy, whether that energy comes straight from God or whether they just are supercharged individuals, and they find themselves in a career as being a shaman for the village. What they're doing is stimulating stem cell growth in the people that they're around, whether it's a laying of the hands, cell-to-cell communication from one body to another, through the way that cells communicate with each other, through all kinds of quantum transmissibles, whether you go through a ayahuasca experience and reach in the spirit world and pull the elements out that are holding back your cell growth in your own body. One thing that you find when you go to do treatments, because this is part of the healthcare idea of using umbilical cords and placentas to inject stem cells into people to heal them. People who are healed by those types of treatments find immediate relief, happens quickly. Very much like the healing in the Bible was talked about. So we're talking about an ancient technology here, whether it's the hand of God or the just having positive healing type people who you interact with through touch or some sort of emotional attachment. That healing, self-healing, just like the condition with diabetes, can be provoked within yourself. And that some people just have a talent or a knack to unlock somebody's natural abilities. Most illnesses, cancers especially, the cure for cancer is essentially in getting your calibration set right for your own immune system. And sometimes that can happen with a shock. Egyptians believed they could walk on electrified catfish that would shock their system and get their joints to relieve them of pain. There's lots of methods people have utilized over a long period of time to kind of recalibrate their immune systems, their stem cell growth, even if they didn't understand quite what that was, but that would promote healing. And that people who had longevity in ancient times likely were able to keep their stem cell replication up in their own bodies for unusual periods of time, unusual based on modern standards. So if you're trying to have a healthcare system, you wanted to keep more people healthy and not drains on that system, wouldn't you want to promote self-growth? So yes, you would. Wouldn't it be great if you had Jesus who'd come along and lay a hand on you and heal you of whatever's ailing you? And we see that in stem cell science, where that's, when you were born and you were being made initially, stem cells build everything. And you should be able to build everything perpetually throughout your life. It shouldn't be something that goes away. But just like everything, when as you get older, your body starts going outside less. Your cells stop going outside and playing out in the yard, or you doing yard work. They stay inside and watch TV, and they close the doors, and they're not as effective. And then you have cancer cells that start overtaking your body. You start having problems with diabetes or whatever the ailment is. The way to fix it is get in there and stimulate your own stem cell growth and reset your system so that you operate with a healthy immune system. And often that happens when you get stem cell injections. It's not the stem cells that are injected that do the job, but it's the competition of your current cells that see these new entries into your body, and it shocks them into doing the jobs they should have been doing all along. It gets them to come out of the house and not stay behind locked doors, the way that they often do when you have a dormant system or you have a lot of hostilities outside the house. The cells go back in and lock the door, pull down the shades, and watch TV. And they don't do the job they're supposed to be doing. So you end up with diabetes, or you end up with some cancer, or you end up with some immune deficiency issue. The problems we saw with COVID, when you started having things that vaccines that messed up people's immune systems, not for everybody, but for some people, and then their cells went into a dormant state and they started getting sick by everything else. And that's part of the danger of these kinds of deals. So if you want to have a healthcare policy, wouldn't you want it to be more like Jesus, where you had talented people who were able to, whether direct touch or just being around them because they're vibrant personalities, that can evoke in other people their own healing, their own ability to heal from within. And I think that's really where we're talking about here, because again, with stem cell injections, it's not the stem cells that do the work that you inject in there. They do, if you have a rotator cuff problem and you want to fix all the ligaments, the injected stem cells they'll build any tissue you put them near. But the real longevity in the healing process comes from the fact that it provokes a person's internal kind of dormant stem cells to getting back to work and seeing what success is supposed to look like, and they're motivated to act. And I think if you go back and you look at the miracles in the Bible and that Jesus was able to perform, the healing, he inspired the healing in other people by getting them through the power of his touch or his personality, his radiance, by the gift of God, to get back to that healing notion that was always there within them. Just like in the case of the diabetics. If you have diabetes, type 2 diabetes, newsflash, it is reversible. And if you could get everybody to just get healthy on their own, you can really take the burden off your healthcare system. But if you're talking about feeding such a monstrosity and making people sick and not healing, letting them go through ridiculous chemotherapy treatments for cancers, instead of just healing the cancer with your own immune system, getting your system rocked up to fix itself, if you're not talking about a healthcare system that's doing that, then you're really not talking about having really any kind of healthcare. And I would say that the goal of healthcare should be to have what Jesus did, and have the ability to bring out in the sick people their own ability to heal, just like in the case of diabetes, just like in the case of stem cell injections that provoke healing within a person, whoever the victim is, and getting to full recovery instead of sustained pain relief, which is what modern healthcare currently is. So if your policies are to build a healthcare system that is just about dealing with an ailment rather than treating the ailment and reducing the pain so that you don't suffer so much from that ailment, then you're not talking about anything serious. You're really not trying to solve the problem. So what's the point in talking about it? And then when you start trying to have a state or a government, federal government policy on healthcare, and it's all about treating the pain instead of the problem, then I'm not interested in that kind of conversation. I'm interested in Jesus. I think Jesus is the way that people should be motivated to go, not just to live by his rules and thoughts and philosophy of being the Son of God, but in his ability to heal people and provoking them the ability to heal themselves by just being near such a person. And it's not just evidence in the Bible that we hear this kind of stuff. You see this in all kinds of shaman cultures all over the world. And they're primitive, and they don't have access to advanced medicine and the pharmaceuticals that we know. They heal themselves through similar acts. Probably doesn't work for everybody, but what you have inside yourself are stem cells that always were there since you were a baby. And if you get them to get back to work, then you could usually overcome just about everything, including cancer. Certainly, we've discovered that type 2 diabetes is treatable. It's reversible, not treatable. It's reversible if you change the conditions that drove you to it, which essentially get your beta cells in your pancreas back outside to do the job instead of hiding from all the taxing stresses that you put yourself through poor lifestyle choices, hereditary issues, or just carrying around a lot of extra weight that is a shock to your system and forces your cells not to perform properly. And you end up with some kind of diabolical illness. If you treat those things and get people to heal themselves, then your healthcare system would be totally different. And I think the best example of that would be everybody should strive to be Jesus. It's not just a good practice for living a healthy existence and a religious principle, but it's also how to conduct yourself in a physical reality where you're trying to maintain good body health and be around for your friends and family and people who care about you. Sounds like a good idea to me. Anyway, it's Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you ever read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Have a good day. See you later.